The story begins with our hapless hero, Kaido Takagi, using insect spray to hunt a slime in a dungeon. He successfully kills the slime and collects its core. Kaido is pleased to have finally come up with a name for his insect spray attack. Reflecting on his journey, he realizes it has been 2 years since he started exploring dungeons. Despite his efforts, Kaido is disappointed to still be hunting slimes on the first floor of the dungeon. Having just killed his 999th slime, he feels like a mere mob hunter among explorers. He considers ending his exploration after reaching a milestone of 1,000 kills. Determined, he searches the dungeon for one more slime, noting that the dungeon is equipped with cameras. Kaido then encounters a golden slime, which he deems the perfect prey for his 1,000th kill. He stealthily approaches the slime and attempts to kill it with his insect spray, but the slime dodges. Forced to escalate, Kaido pulls out his insecticide gun and successfully takes it down. Proud of his achievement, Kaido boasts that no one can escape his insecticide gun. However, he is surprised to find that he didn't level up. Checking his stats, he notices that despite the slime being a rare monster, he gained little experience. He consoles himself with the thought that he might sell its magic core for a high price. Upon closer inspection, Kaido discovers that the slime dropped something other than a magic core. It's a servant card, and he can't believe his luck. Examining the card, he learns that it allows him to summon a Valkyrie named Sylphie, who possesses impressive stats. Ecstatic, Kaido thinks his miserable life might finally turn around. He checks to see if anyone saw him with the card and confirms that he's alone. There aren't any cameras in the room either. Realizing the value of his find, he resolves to keep the card a secret from everyone else. He searches the internet for information about Sylphie, but comes up empty. Remembering that Valkyries are supposed to be demigods from mythology, he wonders if he's holding a rare card. Deciding to leave the labyrinth, Kaido plans to gather more information about Sylphie. On his way out, he encounters some real adventurers and envies their armor and weapons. He hopes that selling the servant card might help him fulfill his dream of owning such gear. The scene shifts to Kaido selling the 3 slime cores he collected throughout the day. Each core sells for 500 yen, netting him a total of 1,500 yen. As he prepares to leave, he remembers the card and asks the appraiser about the potential value of a rare servant card, stressing that it's purely hypothetical. The appraiser mentions that she heard of a rare god-type card once being traded overseas for 1 billion yen. Kaido then puts his belongings, including the servant card, into a locker at the facility, dreaming about having 1 billion yen. He leaves the facility with visions of wealth filling his mind, maintaining this daydream all the way to the train station. At the station, Kaido meets his friends Shinji and Hayato. We learn that because they have exploration cards, they can enter the facility anytime they want for free. Kaido reminds them that these cards are not meant for playing in the park around the facility. The 3 of them board the train together. During their conversation, Kaido reveals that he is still stuck at level 3 and suggests they explore the dungeon again. His friends, however, are reluctant. They remind Kaido of their disastrous first attempt as explorers when they ventured to the 2nd floor of the labyrinth to fight a goblin, only to get thoroughly defeated. Although they recovered quickly thanks to a potion, they've had enough of that life. They now prefer playing in the park, and they question why Kaido hasn't grown tired of killing slimes for the past 2 years. Kaido vaguely mentions that he has a lot going on. The scene shifts to Kaido walking home. A girl living next door notices him returning. Later, during dinner, his parents express concern that his part-time work might interfere with his studies. Kaido reassures them that he is managing fine. From the ongoing TV broadcast, we learn that dungeons appeared in the real world 13 years ago. While taking a bath, Kaido contemplates whether summoning the servant he obtained could make him stronger and enable him to explore deeper floors of the dungeon. He fantasizes about the possibilities that 1 billion yen could bring new equipment weapons, and anything else he desires. He is torn between summoning Sylphie and selling the card. The next morning, the scene shifts to Kaido heading to school. He meets the girl next door, Haruka, on the way. They walk to school together, and everyone stares at the beautiful Haruka as they pass by. Not wanting anyone to get the wrong idea, Kaido slows his pace, but Haruka matches his speed, walking alongside him. She mentions seeing him return home the previous night and asks where he went. Kaido hides the fact that he visited the dungeon, instead telling her that he went to a boys' party with his friends. They meet up with Shinji and Hayato along the way, and Kaido privately asks them not to tell Haruka about his dungeon visit. They agree. Haruka asks what they did at the boys' party, and the three friends give different answers, unable to settle on a single activity. This inconsistency angers Haruka, who suspects Kaido went to the dungeon again. Kaido firmly denies it, and Haruka chooses to believe him. Together, they continue on to school. During lunch break, Kaido asks his friends what they would do if they obtained a rare servant card. They quickly respond that they would sell it immediately, as these cards are worth millions of yen, and the servants they summon can only be used in the dungeons. Kaido agrees, saying he would also sell it. His friends advise him to think about it when he actually gets a servant card. In class, while the teacher is lecturing, Kaido reflects on his friend's advice. He acknowledges that they are right. He can't sell the card if he uses it, and he has no guarantee that the summoned servant will be useful. Yet, he feels the need to prove himself to the girl he loves. Later, Kaido returns to the dungeon, seeking an area without cameras. He decides to use the card and become a hero. He summons the Valkyrie named Sylphie, and a giant girl with wings appears before him. However, she soon disappears, leaving Kaido bewildered. He then notices a little girl standing in front of him, who greets him. She introduces herself as Sylphie, the Valkyrie he summoned. Disappointed by her small stature, Kaido feels his dreams of becoming a hero are crushed and regrets not selling the card for 1 billion yen. When Sylphie asks if something is wrong, he assures her he is fine and suggests they go hunt slimes. As they search for slimes, Sylphie tells Kaido she can sense a slime nearby. He is surprised by her ability to detect monsters and follows her to the slime. Realizing her powers are genuine, Kaido decides to test them and asks Sylphie to kill the slime. She uses an attack called Divine Lightning, which is overkill for the small monster. This display of power impresses Kaido, who remembers her battle power is 170, 17 times higher than his. Sylphie then embarrassingly admits she is hungry and will collapse if she doesn't eat. Kaido remembers that servants consume magic cores and feeds her the slime's core, satisfying her hunger. Sylphie senses another slime and heads towards it, but Kaido stops her. He realizes that while she can sense slimes, using her powers to kill them makes her hungry, requiring more magic cores to replenish her strength. He concludes that this method would neither bring profit nor loss. After thinking it over, Kaido asks Sylphie where the slime is. She leads him to the monster, and he kills it with his insect spray. Kaido believes that by using Sylphie's ability to locate slimes and his own method to kill them, he can make a good profit. After killing several slimes, Kaido notices he has leveled up, with his battle points increasing by 2. He also gains a new skill called Slime Slayer, which is awarded to those who have mastered combat with slimes. This skill boosts all of his stats by 50% when fighting slimes. Kaido feels a bit disappointed that his new skill, Slime Slayer, only increases his stats while fighting slimes. Sensing his mood, Sylphie cheers him up by telling him that having any skill is amazing. This encouragement brings tears to Kaido's eyes, and he decides to end his exploration for the day. Sylphie, saddened by the news, asks if he will summon her again soon. He promises her that he will, which makes her happy before he sends her back to the card. Afterwards, Kaido goes to sell the magic cores he collected. The appraiser is surprised at the amount he collected in one day. Kaido explains that he was just lucky to encounter so many slimes. The appraiser tells him that he has set a new record for the number of slimes killed in one day and pays him 15,000 yen for all the cores. Later, Kaido is lying on his bed at home, thinking about Sylphie's amazing power. He considers the possibility of venturing to the second floor of the dungeon with her, though he feels a bit scared about facing goblins. As he drifts off to sleep, he dreams about his childhood. In the dream, Kaido and Haruka are watching the news about Haruka's father, a well-known dungeon explorer. Her father, in a news interview, states that one day he will uncover the truth about dungeons and reveal it to the world, which excites young Kaido. The next morning, Kaido wakes up with a determined resolve. He decides to venture to the second floor of the labyrinth. The scene shifts to him at the entrance to the second floor with Sylphie by his side. Sylphie assures him that she will do her best to support him. As they descend to the second floor, Kaido resolves that one day he will uncover the truth about the dungeons and become a hero like Haruka's father. This brings an end to our episode 1. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to not miss the next part. On the second floor of the dungeon, Kaido is completely terrified. Sylphie asks if he's all right, and though he insists he's fine, his shaking legs betray his fear. Sylphie takes his hand to calm him, and he thanks her, feeling a bit more at ease. They begin exploring the area, and Sylphie senses a goblin nearby. Upon hearing this, Kaido bolts in the opposite direction, claiming he has something to take care of. However, he remembers his dream of becoming a hero, steals his nerves, and asks Sylphie to take him to the goblin. They find a sleeping goblin, and Kaido asks Sylphie to defeat it. She prepares to use her divine lightning, but Kaido stops her, stating that he must handle this himself. He tells her to use her divine lightning only if he gets into trouble. Understanding his resolve, Sylphie steps back. Kaido attacks the goblin with a wooden sword, but the goblin dodges and counterattacks. Kaido defends with his new shield, nearly getting pushed back. He regains his footing and tries to land a blow, but the goblin catches his sword and disarms him. The goblin lunges at him, but Kaido blinds it with insecticide spray, retrieves his sword, and, stumbling, manages to dodge the goblin's next attack and kill it in one strike. Sylphie praises him, and Kaido is nearly in tears from the confrontation. He collects the goblin's magic core, relieved and proud of his victory. Sylphie tells him he did great, but advises him to let her help next time. Kaido agrees and notices he has leveled up, reaching level 5 and gaining a temporary skill called Goblin Slayer. He's surprised that killing one goblin was enough to level up. The Goblin Slayer skill increases all stats by 10% when fighting goblins, but is temporary since he defeated the goblin by chance, reducing the skill's effectiveness. Uncertain if he should be happy about the skill, Kaido is at least glad he won the fight. Sylphie suggests they proceed further, and together they fight another goblin. Sylphie uses her Iron Wall skill to protect Kaido, allowing him to defeat the goblin. The pair continue working together, defeating more goblins, and Kaido levels up again. Curious about the dungeon, Kaido asks Sylphie, but she knows no more than he does. She apologizes for her ignorance, stating that her duty is to be useful to him, which is engraved in her heart. Kaido reassures her, saying they can learn the dungeon's secrets together. Sylphie likes the idea, and they encounter another goblin. Kaido acts as a tank to draw the goblin's attention, and Sylphie defeats it with her divine lightning. Kaido rewards her by feeding her the goblin's core. The scene shifts to Kaido selling the goblin cores to an appraiser. She is surprised it's his first time bringing goblin cores, and he mentions he reached the second floor today. She's impressed that he killed 4 goblins on his first trip, and he modestly claims he got lucky. The next morning, Kaido sleeps late due to muscle soreness. His mother tries to wake him, but he asks for more sleep, unable to move. She advises him not to strain himself too much. On his way to school, Haruka notices Kaido looks tired and asks if he went to the dungeon. He lies, saying he didn't, and explains his soreness by claiming he was trying to work out like a bodybuilder he admires. Haruka tells him not to overdo it, as a muscular build wouldn't suit him. In class, Kaido tells his friends he hunted goblins recently. They're surprised, as he had been hunting only slimes before, and they find it impressive he defeated goblins alone. Kaido explains he's been pushing himself and has gained some confidence, contemplating going deeper into the dungeon. His friends tease that people can do anything for love. Kaido and Sylphie return to the dungeon and discover an unexplored area. They encounter and defeat several goblins by working together. Kaido rewards Sylphie with some magic cores for her hard work, and after returning home, he sleeps soundly. The next day, Kaido hunts goblins again, now armed with a tungsten rod instead of a wooden sword. Exhausted from frequent dungeon trips, he falls asleep during class. Determined, he returns to the dungeon, defeats a goblin with his new weapon, and finally reaches level 10. Sylphie praises his rapid progress, and Kaido notices a significant boost in all his stats. He also unlocks a new skill called God's Blessing, which boosts stat increases upon leveling up, depending on divine favor. He wonders if this is an overpowered skill and bows down to Sylphie, thinking she might be the god connected to the skill. Sylphie tells him to stop bowing and takes his hand, expressing her happiness to work with him. Kaido reciprocates, saying he's glad to have met her, making her happy as well. She states she's lucky to have him as her master. While exploring further, they encounter a glowing skeleton. Kaido thinks it must be a rare monster and wonders if Sylphie's God's Blessing helped them find it. The skeleton attacks, and Sylphie protects Kaido with her iron wall. Kaido's attacks are ineffective, so he asks Sylphie to use her divine lightning, which kills the skeleton in one strike. The skeleton drops a rare red magic core, different from the usual blue ones, and Kaido assumes it's because the monster was rare. Sylphie, hungry after using her spells, receives the red core from Kaido as a reward. She finds it tastier than the usual cores. Later, Kaido learns from the appraiser that red cores are worth around 2 million. Although devastated by the loss, he realizes Sylphie deserves the reward for her hard work. Despite his financial setback, Kaido acknowledges that Sylphie has helped him immensely, transforming him from a nobody. He considers moving to the 3rd floor of the dungeon, aware that monsters there appear in groups, so he must prepare thoroughly. The next day in the dungeon, Kaido tells Sylphie he wants to fight alone for a while. Sylphie, worried she might have upset him, is reassured when Kaido explains he wants to become stronger and not be completely dependent on her. He tells her he considers her more like a younger sister than a servant and wants to build their relationship. Sylphie is overjoyed, and Kaido wonders if he can call her Syl to show his affection. She happily accepts the new name. A goblin appears, and Kaido asks Sylphie to watch as he defeats it. She wishes him luck. Later, Kaido is in the appraisal room, badly injured from the fight. The appraiser advises him not to push himself too hard, and he buys a potion to heal himself. Back at home, Kaido reflects on how expensive potions are but acknowledges their necessity for reaching the 3rd floor. He decides to stock up on magic cores for Sylphie and kill slimes for a while to gather funds. Using Sylphie's detection ability, he kills as many slimes as possible. Kaido later tells his friends that he's killing slimes again. They think he's back where he started, but he explains he's doing it to gather funds. Haruka hears about the slimes and takes interest in his activities. Kaido thinks of a way to divert Haruka's attention. He tells her he wasn't talking about slimes, but about sliced cheese, explaining that eating sliced cheese with bread is heavenly. Haruka agrees with him, and the conversation shifts. Later, we see Kaido back in the dungeon, killing slimes and gathering enough cores to fund his exploration of the 3rd floor. Sylphie then senses something strange nearby, and Kaido discovers it's a silver slime. Believing this encounter is due to Sylphie's god's blessing, he suggests they fight it together. They battle the slime, and Sylphie defeats it. As a drop item, Kaido receives a servant card, which can summon a Viscount-class devil named Luceria. He wonders if it's safe to summon a devil, but is excited about having both a god and a devil by his side. When he summons the devil, he is surprised to see a giant demon girl initially, but she soon transforms into a smaller form. He is disappointed that she doesn't look like the beautiful girl depicted on the card. They introduce themselves, and Luceria immediately criticizes Kaido, thinking he seems unreliable and not very smart. Sylphie, protective of her master, isn't fond of Luceria's attitude, but Luceria tells her not to worry as all demons have foul mouths. Sylphie accepts this explanation. Luceria inquires about Sylphie, noting that she looks like a Valkyrie. Sylphie confirms she is Kaido's servant and looks forward to working together. Luceria feels the same and asks Kaido for some cores as she is hungry. Kaido refuses since she hasn't done anything yet. Just then, Sylphie spots a slime nearby, and Luceria smugly steps in, using an overpowered attack called Hellfire of Destruction to obliterate the slime. Kaido gives her the core as she demanded. Still unsatisfied, she asks for more, but Kaido tells her he doesn't have any left. Luceria thinks of him as a cheapskate and reluctantly agrees to use another attack, Breath of Erosion, on a goblin after Kaido promises to give her more cores later. She melts the goblin with this attack, and both Sylphie and Kaido find it too gross to watch. Kaido gives her the magic core, and Luceria enjoys its taste, suggesting they explore lower floors for tastier cores from stronger monsters. Kaido, however, insists they need to prepare with new weapons and supplies before descending further. He asks Luceria if she is familiar with the dungeon, and since she isn't, she agrees to follow his lead. Kaido suggests they go to the third floor the next day, as Luceria might be tired today. She denies being tired, but agrees after Sylphie advises her to listen to their master. The next day, the three of them head to the third floor. Kaido has bought a crossbow as his new weapon. Sylphie thinks it suits him well, and Kaido mentions that it was quite expensive. Luceria dismisses the price as unimportant. They then encounter two hellhounds. Kaido shoots at them, but misses, and the hounds attack. Sylphie protects him with a barrier, and Luceria uses Hellfire of Destruction to kill them. Kaido feeds her a core, but she demands the other one too. He refuses, needing to save some cores, and promises her an extra core if she kills more monsters. Luceria warns him not to break his promise, threatening to send him to hell if he does, which scares him. They then face two wild boars. Luceria uses Hellfire of Destruction again, but only kills one. The other boar charges at them. Luceria prepares another attack, but Kaido stops her, opting to shoot the boar himself. His first shot isn't enough to kill it, startling him and causing him to fall. Sylphie tries to help with her divine lightning, but Kaido manages to kill the boar with another shot. Sylphie praises him, but Luceria mocks his fear. Kaido realizes he has leveled up to 11, and Luceria asks for more magic cores. Later, we see Kaido leaving the dungeon, worrying that he won't make any profit if he keeps feeding all the cores to his servants. On his way out, he overhears a party of adventurers talking about reaching the 6th floor without any problems, and he notices the party consists of 3 girls. The scene shifts to Kaido in class, pondering the possibility of his party reaching the 6th floor of the dungeon. He feels confident they can achieve this if they work hard. Daydreaming about their progress, Kaido's classmates wake him up, surprised by his carefree attitude. They lament their own struggles to earn enough points for their desired schools. Kaido, however, remains unbothered as he hasn't decided on a school yet. Haruka overhears the conversation and asks Kaido about his school choice. Unsure, he asks her first, and she reveals she plans to attend Aoka Academy. She wonders if he will join her there, and, lacking a better idea, he agrees. Haruka is thrilled they will attend the same school again and leaves to help a friend. Kaido is puzzled by her happiness, and his friends tease him for being oblivious. The scene cuts to the labyrinth, where Kaido and his servants kill monsters one by one. Unlike Sylphie, Luceria frequently demands more cores, and Kaido complies, much to Sylphie's quiet discontent. Kaido doesn't notice her feelings, but when he asks if something is wrong, she stays silent. He senses her unease but can't pinpoint the issue. At home, Kaido sees his mother watching a drama on TV, depicting a similar situation to his own. Realizing Sylphie might feel anxious about Luceria, he worries this could lead to a conflict between his servants. The next morning, he meets Haruka on the way to school. She notices his tiredness and offers help, but he hesitates to reveal his troubles. Instead, he explains his two friends have befriended girls with clashing personalities, keeping him up all night. Haruka suggests he talk directly to the quieter girl, prompting Kaido to summon only Sylphie in the dungeon. Sylphie blushes, thinking he wants to be alone with her, but is less enthusiastic when he brings up Luceria. Kaido asks if she dislikes Luceria, but Sylphie denies this, admitting she found Luceria intimidating at first, but now appreciates her kindness. Kaido insists on knowing if anything bothers her. Flustered, Sylphie admits she feels neglected as Luceria receives more cores and attention. Kaido realizes she is jealous and promises to treat them equally, including giving Sylphie as many cores as Luceria and spending more time talking to her. Sylphie is pleased, and Kaido immediately starts honoring his promise. Later, Kaido praises Sylphie's well-timed attack, and Luceria demands similar recognition. He obliges, making Luceria smug. They encounter a wild boar, which Sylphie defeats, leveling up and significantly boosting her stats. Luceria congratulates her, and Sylphie then takes out 3 hellhounds with a single attack. Kaido is impressed by her newfound strength. Another wild boar appears, and Sylphie shields everyone with a barrier. Noticing the barrier's increased durability, Kaido stops Luceria from attacking and handles the boar himself. He feeds Sylphie some cores, but Luceria is unhappy about her inactivity. Sylphie softly asks for more cores, and Kaido realizes her increased appetite from leveling up. He exchanges cores for money at the appraiser, who remarks on the reduced number of cores Kaido brought lately. The next day, Kaido kills slimes on the first level, having defeated 25 so far. Sylphie praises him, but Luceria complains about not fighting. Kaido explains he needs to save magic ores, and Luceria questions her purpose if she can't fight. Sylphie expresses her contentment in supporting their master, and Kaido appreciates their support. Luceria, despite her tough front, is pleased but hides her feelings. After selling the slime cores, the appraiser asks if something is wrong, noting Kaido only brings slime cores. Kaido explains he's revisiting the first floor, and the appraiser, puzzled, suggests he should be ready for the 4th floor already. The scene transitions to Kaido browsing the internet for better equipment, as he feels ready for the 4th floor physically, but knows his current gear isn't adequate. He contemplates purchasing new armor and finds an impressive suit made of carbon nanotubes. However, it's far beyond his budget. Determined to make more money, Kaido heads back to the dungeon. He encounters a blue metallic slime, attributing this rare find to Sylphie's god's blessing. Hoping for a valuable servant card drop, he directs Sylphie and Luceria to surround and attack the slime. The slime is swiftly defeated, but instead of a servant card, it drops a magic orb. Kaido explains that this orb can help him master a spell and become a wizard. He smashes the orb on the ground, gaining a new skill called Water Ball. Eager to test his new ability, Kaido searches for a suitable target and spots a hellhound. He instructs Sylphie to cast a protective barrier and tells Luceria to be ready to finish the monster if his spell fails. Sylphie creates the barrier, and Kaido launches his water ball at the hellhound. Unfortunately, the attack does no damage. Luceria quickly kills the hellhound before it can retaliate. Disheartened by the ineffectiveness of his magic, Kaido is consoled by Sylphie, who praises his ability to use magic at all. Luceria wryly remarks that at least he won't have to worry about drinking water. Kaido laments not selling the magic orb instead. Later that night, a dejected Kaido sits in a park, where Haruka finds him. She asks why he's out so late, and he nearly mentions his new magic skill, but instead changes the topic, talking about a recent movie that disappointed him and his friends. As they walk home, Kaido learns that Haruka was returning from cram school. He thanks her for her advice, which helped resolve his issue. She suspects the problem might have been about him, not his friends, but he denies it. As Haruka heads to her house, Kaido wonders if she was upset with him. He muses if Haruka might be jealous, similar to Sylphie, but dismisses the thought, thinking it impossible. The next day, the adventurer returns to the dungeon, eager to practice his newest spell. Just like the day before, all he can muster is a ridiculous water ball that splashes against the wall and bursts like a soap bubble. Shyle is worried about him overexerting himself, but Luceria is already envisioning the bright future of this talented mage. Ignoring the little demon, Kaido resumes conjuring the water ball and ends up fainting from exhaustion. Back home, he is extremely tired. After passing out, he dreams again of his childhood hero, Captain Katsuragi. As a child, Kaido wanted nothing more than to become that man. When he wakes up, he knows he can't give up now. Determined, he returns to the dungeon and resumes his training. Soon, the water balls start showing improvement, hitting the wall with more force. After hours of repetition, he gets tired again, but maintains the determination needed to get up and continue. This time, he tries to form a cube out of the water ball. With the Valkyrie cheering him on, he succeeds and celebrates excitedly, despite Luceria's dismissive attitude. On the brink of exhaustion, Kaido insists on training and nearly collapses. Leaving the dungeon, he celebrates his improved mana control, but is frustrated by his exhaustion. Stumbling from fatigue, he trips and falls onto a girl's shoulder. The group of girls is worried about him, but he insists he's fine and continues on his way. As he walks away, the oldest of the three girls comments that some people really overdo it with training. Hikarin, the youngest, believes that only those who push themselves to the limit can learn the most, while Mikyu, with her cat hood, thinks that such people just like to suffer. The next day, Kaido is sleeping soundly in class as usual. This time, the teacher shows up to scold him. Startled, Kaido wakes up shouting that he will train hard again today, causing the teacher to frown even more, while the whole class bursts into laughter and Katsuragi looks on with concern. After class, Shinji and Hayato go to talk with the slime exterminator. He explains that he's been training essential skills to conquer a dungeon, which is why he's always tired. Katsuragi butts into the conversation to ask if Kaido is going to the dungeon again. Having overheard, he lies, saying he was actually talking about a crazy dance move he's been practicing. Hearing this, Katsuragi asks him to show her the move one day and leaves. Later, Kaido is back in the dungeon, sending out water balls. This time, he shoots the spell straight into a goblin's mouth, suffocating the creature to death. Shyle praises his brilliant strategy, while Luceria mocks him for finally using his head. However, despite his efforts, Kaido can no longer gain experience points from killing monsters on the third floor. He needs to go deeper to level up, so he calls on the girls to descend to the fourth floor, also mentioning he might have saved enough money to buy that cool outfit he found online. Sure enough, he returns to the cave wearing his new armor, despite the young demon thinking it's the ugliest thing ever. Kaido complains about the high cost, but Shyle really likes the outfit. He explains that it has carbon nanotubes capable of protecting every part of his body despite being thin. Luceria is skeptical and asks what the point of it is. He explains that, for example, if a sharp arrow flies toward him, He would be protected by the armor. Additionally, it came with a bracelet that enhances his spells, or at least that's what the product description said. Shyle notes that buying such armor is cool, but Luceria thinks he should have tested it before buying. With less patience, he explains that you can't do that when buying online. He then pulls a lotion from his pocket to show another advantage of the combo, but Luceria is already dragging Shyle away. With the conversation over, they head to the 4th floor. Shyle senses a presence that gives her chills. Taking a look, they see her worst nightmare, a gigantic cockroach. Kaido's first reaction is to cast a spell, while his friend joins the massacre by throwing flames of destruction at the insect. After killing the monster and running away in panic, Kaido is left behind. Hearing footsteps approaching, the girls prepare their spells to smash another giant insect. But this time, it's their poor master. Shyle immediately starts crying, while Luceria complains that he just stood there watching them fight alone. To make up for his mistake, Kaido offers the magical cores to the girls for absorption. Despite her usual dramatics, Luceria's stomach growls, prompting her to reluctantly accept. However, the taste is awful, leaving both pupils unmotivated to continue working in exchange for such a horrible core. After the disappointing meal, Kaido is eager to move on to the 5th floor. But first, he wants to ensure there are no monsters nearby. Shyle senses 2 creatures approaching from one direction, and Kaido identifies them as the Madman and Sandman through his system. Wasting no time, he shoots an arrow at one of them, but the projectile passes through the muddy creature's body without causing any harm. Repeating the shot against the other enemy yields the same ineffective result, putting him at risk of a counterattack. Shyle quickly intervenes with the Maiden's Wall, saving her master. From this encounter, Kaido realizes that physical attacks are useless against these types of monsters. Resorting to basics, he unleashes the flames of destruction upon the opponents. After their victory, Kaido once again offers the horrendous cores to the girls, but this time they refuse. Frustrated, Kaido decides to head home after a day with little success since they didn't encounter many monsters. He asks Shyle if she senses any presence, but all she feels is a wall, which Kaido thinks is ordinary. To prove her worth, the Valkyrie blows up the wall, revealing a secret entrance. Abandoning his plans to leave, Kaido warns the girls to be careful, as there might be traps in this part of the dungeon. Almost immediately, Luceria activates a false floor, triggering an arrow shot. In a desperate attempt to save the little demon, Kaido takes the arrow to his stomach. He rolls on the ground, but quickly gets up, remembering he didn't buy his new outfit for nothing. As they continue their walk, Kaido reminds the girls to be very careful where they step. Luceria, however, causes more trouble by activating another trap. This time, Kaido manages to dodge, but ends up getting electrocuted by another trap. For some reason, the shock makes Kaido feel better than before. He pulls himself together and asks Luceria why she shows concern for him when she always mocks him. After being terrified by the possibility of dying, the demon crosses her arms and pretends to be cold and calculating. Shyle then senses another presence behind a door, this time quite different from the others. Fed up, Kaido turns to leave, but the girls are determined to continue. Reluctantly, Kaido stays and asks Shyle not to charge him for the damage when she blows up the door. Advancing through the path, the group encounters a giant slime and an ogre. Kaido asks the girls for help in defeating the ogre first. They use their usual magic against the enemy, but the monster emerges from the explosion unscathed. The creature charges at them, so Shyle activates the Maiden's Wall to protect everyone. Discovering that the barrier can hold off the giant, Kaido tells Luceria to handle the slime and attempts a physical attack on the ogre since the magic attack didn't work. He manages to hit the ogre's leg with an arrow, knocking it down. Seizing the moment, Kaido shoots the ogre multiple times, but his ammunition runs out. The ogre resumes its attack on Shile's barrier, And to make matters worse, the slime is also immune to magical attacks, leaving Luceria in trouble. Kaido resorts to his only option, conjuring a water ball. However, the water turns into ice, possibly due to the bracelet's effect. He launches several ice balls at the ogre, causing significant damage, but his mana is running out. Focusing on a stronger shot, he invokes an ice spear that pierces the beast's eye and then its forehead, defeating the ogre. Turning their attention to the giant slime, Kaido asks Shile to use the Divine Lance Roginate while he holds the monster with his shield. Before the slime melts his defense, the Valkyrie throws the weapon's magic at the creature, blowing off part of its body but not defeating it. Injured, Kaido considers retreating, but remembers Captain Kazaki and decides not to give up. Determined, he charges at the slime and uses his most classic strategy, insecticide. Using the Maiden's Wall for defense, the group sees the slime's HP plummeting. Kaido ups the ante by pulling out his dual jet, increasing the dose of poison and killing the enemy. After the victory, Kaido uses a lotion to recover his health and sees his demon pupil level up, while he reaches level 15 himself. They search for the magic cores and collect the red stone from the ogre. A bit further ahead, Kaido finds a rare magic sword that looks more like a kitchen knife, according to Luceria. Taking it to the sales counter, the woman asks where he found it. He informs her it was in the secret dungeon on the 5th floor after defeating 2 boss-like monsters. The dungeon employee has no idea about the secret passage, so Kaido shows its location on the map. She says she'll notify her superiors and informs him that the special red core is worth a lot. She also invites him to participate in next week's event, where investigators will go on an expedition to the 7th floor. Excited, Kaido tells his friends about the upcoming expedition to show off. Katsuragi asks if it's some dance group, and Shinji confirms the lie to ease Kaido's situation. Katsuragi falls for it again and asks to be invited to watch the performance. Later, Kaido discovers his team for the expedition includes the same girls he met a few days ago. Haruka dreams about the past, vividly recalling her father heading off to the dungeon. She pleads with him to come back soon, and he promises to return early for dinner. He then departs, and Haruka wakes up, heading to her friend's house to study together. As she steps outside, she wonders if Kaido is practicing dance or doing muscle training today. Meanwhile, participants of the event line up to be teleported. Kaido's team stands in the teleport circle, holding hands, and they are transported to the 6th floor. Kaido is relieved they arrived safely and confesses this is his second time using the gate, making him quite nervous. He explains he first used it to travel from the 6th floor to the ground yesterday. The others share they were also nervous, as it was their first time too. A staff member guides them to the stairs leading to the 7th floor, informing them the event is scheduled for 3 hours. Near the stairs, they spot a convenience store. Eri asks if Kaido wants to buy something. He finds it convenient to have a store in the dungeon and buys refills for his pesticide spray. His teammates notice his heavy luggage, and Kaido remarks that they seem to be traveling light. They reveal they have magic bags, surprising Kaido since these bags cost as much as a mansion. He learns their parents bought them, realizing they come from wealthy families. Eri asks if Kaido has the proper equipment, and he admits he started with small items, working his way up by selling magic cores. Miku points out he is only wearing a tight suit, and Hikari tells her not to be so blunt. They gear up and head to the 7th floor, discussing their reconnaissance. Kaido discovers that mostly golem-type monsters appear on this floor. The team explains that scouting is essential for success, and Kaido agrees, though he knows this is not just a game. They spot shadows approaching and prepare for battle, only to find it's the staff cleaning the dungeon. The staff encourage them to do their best in the event. Kaido shares he is at level 16 and asks about their levels. Eri is at level 18, while Hikari and Miku are both at level 15. Miku mentions Hikari's MP of 75, astonishing Kaido, who has only half of that. Suddenly, they encounter a stone golem. Eri orders Hikari to prepare her magic and Miku to protect Hikari while she fights. Kaido wonders what he should do, and Eri tells him to watch her back. She attacks and defeats the golem alone, impressing Kaido. They then face a bronze golem. Hikari uses Earth Wave to trap it in a swamp. Miku summons Snatch, who dodges the golem's attacks and casts a wind spell, and Hikari finishes it with a fireball. Eri strikes with her spear, defeating the golem. Kaido is amazed by their skills. Suddenly, he spots an iron golem behind them and alerts the group. He shoots it with his crossbow, but the attack is ineffective. Eri intervenes, but her attacks can't penetrate the golem's tough skin. Hikari and Miku's attacks also fail, and Snatch gets injured. Desperate, Kaido considers summoning Sylphie or Luceria, but then he remembers Baltzard, a magic sword he read about online. He recalls that Baltzard can deal any damage imagined. Kaido decides to give it a try, asking Hikari to use Earth Wave to trap the golem. Eri distracts it with a barrage of attacks. Kaido then strikes the golem from behind with Baltzard, imagining it exploding. Miraculously, the golem blows up. The team is astounded to see Kaido wielding the magic sword Baltzard. The scene cuts to them discussing their dungeon exploration at a cafe. They talk about Kaido's sword, and Kaido explains he got it as a drop item recently, and was glad it worked since it was his first time using it. He asks Miku about Snatch's condition, relieved to hear he's alright. Kaido remarks it was his first time seeing a carbuncle and notes he has never even seen one in a video before. Miku explains that servants can't be captured on camera. Eri asks if he has ever seen any on video, and Kaido realizes he hasn't, understanding why guild officials never questioned him about Sylphie and Luceria. He wonders if they are the only ones who know about Snatch, and Miku explains she got Snatch from an auction and registered him with the guild, so everyone knows about him. Miku suggests they should all put matching keychains on their magic pouches to commemorate participating in the event, and everyone eagerly agrees. Later, Eri asks Kaido to join their party permanently, explaining that their current goal is to reach the transfer gate on the 11th floor, as there are gates every 5 floors. Kaido likes the idea, but admits he's just an ordinary explorer, not special like them. They assure him it's fine, saying they feel safer with him around. They ask if he has anyone else in mind for the party, and Kaido thinks of Sylphie and Luceria, worrying that bringing 2 little girls into the dungeon might get him reported. He asks for time to consider. Miku wonders if he doesn't like their party, but Kaido explains he needs to consult someone first and will give an answer later. They understand, and Eri asks him to contact her once he decides. The scene then cuts to Kaido returning to the dungeon. Inside, he summons his servants, who are upset he didn't summon them earlier. He tells them he's considering forming a party, but they are unhappy, feeling neglected. Sylphie insists they are fine as they are. Luceria gets angry at being called by her full name, and Kaido realizes she's jealous. He suggests nicknames, and she likes Luce. She tells Kaido he must call her that from now on, and he agrees. They explore the dungeon, ignoring the party discussion. The next day, on the way to school, Haruka asks Kaido if he practiced dancing or did muscle training over the weekend. Kaido says both. Haruka is glad and invites him shopping next Saturday. He shyly agrees, and she joins her friend. Kaido meets his friends, who tease him about a possible date with Haruka. Kaido doesn't think Haruka would date him, disappointing his friends. They ask about the event, wondering if he partnered with an older person. Kaido explains he joined a party of 3 girls, one 2 years older, one the same age, and one a year younger. His friends joke about the dungeon being more fun than they thought, considering going back. On Saturday, Kaido picks up Haruka, and they head to the subway station, where they see a dungeon TV broadcast explaining the value of magic cores. Haruka notices Kaido's interest, but tells him to focus on their shopping trip. He agrees. They walk around town, reminiscing about childhood outings. Haruka suggests going to the movies next time, and Kaido agrees. They shop for clothes, and Kaido compliments each outfit Haruka tries. She asks which he likes best, and he picks the last one she wears. They then go to a park and ride boats together, admiring the fish. Kaido thinks Haruka is more beautiful than the fish. Haruka notices Kaido looks tougher, attributing it to muscle training. She suggests more outings like this. They drink juice together, and Haruka hesitates but tries Kaido's flavor, thinking of it as an indirect kiss, and likes it. At the subway station, they see an ad about the dungeon. Haruka watches a father with his daughter and takes Kaido to a dungeon theme park. She mentions her father is inside, revealing she dreamt about the last time she saw him when he promised dinner, but never returned. She wonders why he goes into the dungeon and tells Kaido she had a great time today. She mentions they should head home now, and Kaido knows she's worried, but wants to prove he can be a hero like her father. As the days passed, Kaido began showcasing his water magic by channeling it into Baltzard's blade. After casting a spell that instantly created a sword, he sliced a golem in half and announced that this ability was called the Ice Magic Blade. As always, Shyle clapped enthusiastically and asked Luz if she also thought their master was becoming extremely powerful. Predictably, the Valkyrie teased Shyle, questioning if there was a girl Kaido was trying to impress with his moves. Shyle took the bait and, with tears in her eyes, asked if the master was going to replace them with 3 new girls. Before Kaido could respond, Shyle apologized, promising to surpass her limits if she wasn't doing enough. However, Kaido wasn't dissatisfied with them. He just couldn't explain himself. Luz accused Kaido of discarding them simply because they consumed magic cores like chocolate. Realizing he was at risk of losing his loyal companions, Kaido decided to give up on the other group and promised to keep things as they were. Despite this, Shyle wanted the girls to join the group if that was her master's wish, supporting any decision he made. Luz sighed, giving up trying to control the situation as long as she could keep devouring magic cores. Curious, Shyle asked why Kaido wanted to invite the girls, and he replied that he hoped to evolve alongside them. Moreover, he feared that if he didn't become stronger, his 2 powerful servants might abandon him. Shyle lightened the mood by emphasizing her pride in her master's efforts, so Kaido felt secure forming the group with the humans only on weekends. Although he had permission from both a deity and a demoness, Kaido was much more afraid of the 3 girls, freezing in front of his phone, unable to call Eri, the oldest. To his surprise, Haruka Katsuragi called him, giving Kaido a scare. She wanted to talk, but Kaido first asked for advice on easing his nervousness, lying that his friends wanted to call some girls but couldn't. Haruka shared a childhood story. Her father saw her admiring a piano on stage, asked if she could play it, and dried her tears when she lacked confidence. This trick, pulling a smile from her face with his fingers, showed her how to replace nervousness with joy. Grateful for the advice from Captain Katsuhiko, Kaido practiced the trick while Haruka observed a dress in her room. Meanwhile, Jingyuji Eri was sweating profusely as she executed precise movements with her naginata. During her training, Takagi Kaido called to discuss meeting only on weekends, which worked well for the girls as they had classes during the week, making it easier to go on expeditions on Saturdays and Sundays. Eri invited Kaido to meet at the guild at 10 a.m. With the meeting arranged, Kaido felt relieved, thanks to Katsuragi's advice. When the weekend arrived, the quartet gathered for their debut expedition, with Kaido taking responsibility for defeating the 2 golems on the left, leaving the last 2 for the rest of the team. Showing leadership, he instructed Hikarin to use her Earth Wave and Mikyu to call Snatch to keep the opponents in check. The Earth Wave hindered the golems' mobility, giving the speedy Snatch an advantage in distracting them. Kaido used his ice magic blade technique to defeat the first enemy. When attacked by the second, he dodged and launched a fatal slash, killing the monster instantly. On the other side, Snatch eliminated the third adversary, and Eri took on the fourth, finishing the fight with her Naginata. After the victory, the girls were curious about the boy's spell, noting it wasn't a sphere despite being called a magic water ball. Kaido explained he invented the ice magic blade technique by combining magic with the Balzard sword. Eri praised both his ability and leadership, assuming he had prior experience. Unable to reveal the Valkyrie and Demoness, Kaido changed the subject by complimenting Eri's elegant and efficient Naginata technique. She explained she had been practicing since she was young, making it almost like part of her body. Kaido's stomach growled loudly, so he invited the group to eat. Hours later, back home, Kaido recalled the expensive and refined foods the girls had eaten, while he made do with simpler fare. When the expedition ended, the girls expressed their desire to move to the 8th floor the next day, exciting Kaido with the idea of reaching the strongest floor for him so far. On Sunday, Kaido showed up to the group wearing a life jacket, confusing the girls. He explained that some monsters on the 8th floor lived in the water, so he came prepared. This wasn't just any life jacket, it could withstand magic attacks, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As they continued along the path, Snatch walked ahead to detect enemies. Soon, the animal sensed the presence of an aquatic beast that exhaled a corrosive substance onto Kaido's supposed armor. Eri told him to take it off before something bad happened, and he complied, watching his expensive life-saving gear go to the heaven of vests. Witnessing this brutal scene, Kaido swore vengeance for the vest, but it was Miku who pierced the monster's forehead with her crossbow. Kaido asked if the girl had used the vest to shoot so well, but she had never used it in her life. Thus, the team continued their journey through the dungeon's 8th floor. They faced all kinds of fierce and giant animals until, at one point, a squid tossed Kaido into the water. Without his life vest, he was sure he would become fish food, but Eri pointed out that he was in the shallow end. Crazy as he was, he only cared about where the monster that attacked him went, but Hikarin had already grilled a squid in the other corner. Speaking of which, the youngest member of the team asked if Kaido really knew how to swim. He scratched his neck and gave a sheepish smile as a response. Regardless, the journey continued, and the group started to bond. The newest member demonstrated great skill using his rifle and the ice magic blade to eliminate the enemies that appeared. Eri wielded her classic Naginata to face the obstacles. Miku explored her new talent, showing great efficiency, even though she didn't know how to shoot just minutes before. Lastly, Hikarin wreaked havoc on the battlefield with her fire ray, while keeping a safe distance. When the last fight ended after an intense battle, Kaido succumbed to exhaustion and collapsed on the ground. Sometime later, the young adventurer woke up and asked what had happened to him. Noticing he was in Eri's lap, he was startled and impulsively apologized. Looking at his menu, he noticed Eri's name. His mana points had been restored. Eri explained that they had given him a magic potion, and Kaido regretted making them use such a valuable item. However, the three emphasized that they were a team now and needed to work together. Besides, killing all those tunas had yielded a good amount of magic cores. In the midst of this, Snatch alerted them to another danger. This time, Miku noticed greater stress in the animal, as if something more threatening than usual was near. Their suspicion was confirmed when a colossal dinosaur emerged from the water's depth. The most obvious reaction was to flee, which the four humans did, but the monster wouldn't let that happen. As it crawled after them with its vast body, the tremors caused a collapse that blocked the exit. Thus, there was no alternative but to fight. Once again, Kaido took the lead, instructing Miku to use Snatch for long-range attacks, Hikarin to use magic to immobilize the monster, and Eri to strike the enemy while Kaido distracted it. With the strategy defined, they had to put it into practice. the mage cast the earth wave, followed by an attack from Snatch. However, this tactic did not cause any damage to the opponent this time. Kaido approached the beast and pierced its shell with his ice sword, giving Eri space to stab its head. Despite all their efforts, the monster threw Eri away, taking her out of the battle. Even so, she tried to reach her weapon and continue the fight, driven by her deepest desire to become a heroine. Faced with this, Kaido had no choice but to invoke his two secret cards, Luceria and Sylphie, who promised to make the monster regret attacking their master. The Valkyrie began by launching the Divine Lightning, along with the Demoness's Flame of Destruction. The combination of the two powers resulted in a devastating charge that hit the dinosaur squarely, ending the conflict. With that done, Shyle ran to check on her master, while Luz confirmed that a woman was indeed involved in this whole story. Mikyu wasted no time and hugged the Valkyrie in gratitude, while Hikarin, more restrained, asked for a lock of the demon's hair, which Luceria refused at first. The little girl insisted so sweetly that the demonic entity found herself cornered and eventually allowed it. The human girl got emotional as she rubbed Luceria's silky hair against her face. Before long, the four began to form a bond of friendship and decided to bathe together, which Eri thought was a fantastic idea. They found a place to bathe and further strengthen their bonds. Mikyu was already calling the Valkyrie Shyle, and Hikarin managed to convince Luceria to let her use the nickname too with her angelic face. Eri didn't want to be left behind and asked if she had permission to call the entities the same way. Once she got approval, the team was finally formed, and Eri stood up in excitement. Meanwhile, Kaido took a much quieter bath with Snatch. Then, everyone said their goodbyes, and Kaido was left alone with Eri. The boy mentioned what Eri had said when she was thrown by the dinosaur. She was trying to reach her Naginata while standing up. Jinguji Eri then explained that she had been training since she was little, and her father taught her that it was necessary to become strong to ensure the protection of those she loved and to oppose all injustice. According to him, those who followed this path were called heroes. Since then, that's all Eri had wanted to become. Changing the subject, she mentioned that there would be an event over the weekend at her university campus, the Alka Institute, and invited her new friend to attend. Without wasting time, Kaido told his partners about this invitation. Since it was an open event, he could invite someone to go, but they didn't seem interested. They suggested Haruka, especially since the two had gone out together before. Kaido was terrified of facing such a situation, so his friends gave him a little push and invited Haruka on his behalf. Katsuragi was happy to have been invited, although she had already planned to go since she and Kaido intended to enroll in the same university. Days later, Kaido went to pick up his friend at her house, and she wore the dress he had chosen at the clothing store they had gone to together. Kaido initially sits a little distance from Haruka, but when she prompts him, he moves closer. She thanks him for inviting her to the open campus, but Kaido tells her it's unnecessary since she was planning to go anyway. Haruka mentions that she prefers going together, and Kaido agrees, thinking it feels like a date, though he reminds himself not to get carried away. They're just checking out the academy. Haruka then expresses her excitement to visit Yuka Academy, and we see Shinji and Hayato also on the train, sharing their enthusiasm. Kaido asks why they're there since they have different schools in mind, and they explain that they just want to experience an open campus. They assure him they won't be third wheels, and Kaido brushes off their comments. He then notices a poster about the dungeon, and Haruka asks if he's sad about not being able to go. He smoothly replies that going to the open campus with her is better than going to the dungeon, and Haruka suggests he forget about the dungeon for today. They all arrive at Yuka Academy and are awed by the grandeur of the campus, realizing it's a place where high society gathers. Haruka suggests they head to the reception, and on the way, they notice cherry blossom trees. Haruka imagines them walking under the blossoms next spring, and Kaido briefly fantasizes about it too, but Haruka snaps him out of it. Kaido reminds himself not to get carried away and resolves to study hard to make his dream a reality. He acknowledges that even if they both enter the academy, they'll only be classmates, and he stops himself from daydreaming. At the reception, Kaido meets Eri, who expresses a desire to get to know him better and asks if he brought his friends. Kaido tries to introduce them, but his friends, captivated by Eri's beauty, introduce themselves with uncharacteristic dignity. Eri then asks if Haruka is his girlfriend, but Kaido clarifies that she's just his childhood friend and neighbor. Eri suggests they explore the campus on their own for now, and she'll give them a tour when she's free. As they leave, Eri feels relieved that Haruka isn't Kaido's girlfriend, though she doesn't understand why. Inside the academy, Hayato asks Kaido how he met Eri, and Kaido explains they met in the dungeon. Haruka gives him a cold look, and the atmosphere becomes tense when Kaido accidentally mentions that Eri told him about the open campus. Haruka manages to calm herself, spinning it positively by saying they should thank Eri for enabling them to come together. She also reminds Kaido that he promised not to talk about the dungeon today, though her tone reveals lingering irritation. Kaido's friends suddenly pull him aside and ask if Eri is the person he plans to form a party with, to which he confirms. They envy him and regret quitting dungeon exploration. They advise Kaido to be more careful about what he says to Haruka since she's concerned about his dungeon activities. Kaido understands, and they continue their tour. They visit the auditorium, noting its size and advanced features like the electric blackboard and tablet-based classes. They also notice the academy's many clubs and see an Eid, which Kaido tries to compare to the dungeons, but his friends stop him. They continue exploring and head to the garden, enjoying the calm atmosphere. Kaido's friends remark that the academy is great, but their scores aren't high enough to enroll. Kaido acknowledges that he'll need to study hard if he wants to attend and mentions the tuition fee. He starts to say he could earn the money by exploring dungeons, but stops himself because Haruka is there and instead says he could get a part-time job. The four of them sit for a while, and Haruka mentions how nice it would be to take breaks like this between classes. Kaido agrees and fantasizes about it until Mikyu and Hikari interrupt. They mention that they heard from Eri that he was there, and Kaido introduces them to his friends, who once again act dignified in front of the girls. Mikyu and Hikari assume Haruka is Kaido's girlfriend, but he gives them the same explanation he gave Eri. Kaido then recalls that Mikyu is a second-year student and Hikari is a first-year, thinking it's too soon for them to be touring colleges. Hikari explains that she wanted to visit because it's a good opportunity, though Kaido doesn't fully understand her reasoning. Haruka then asks how they know Kaido, and before he can respond, the girls bluntly say they're in a dungeon exploration party with him. Haruka gives Kaido another cold look, but Eri arrives just in time to break the tension, suggesting they all go to the cafeteria for something to eat. They agree, and the scene shifts to the cafeteria, where everyone is amazed by the impressive menu. Eri mentions that since it's a school cafeteria, the food is surprisingly cheap. Everyone is amazed by this and eagerly starts eating. They love the food, and it's revealed that this is the first time the wealthy girls have eaten in a cafeteria, making the experience even more enjoyable for them. Haruka decides to get a refill, and when Kaido offers to get it for her, she suggests they get refills for everyone, so the two of them leave together. Hayato then asks the girls if they encountered an instructor named Onigawara during explorer training. They recall that they did, and all of them disliked him because of how strict he was. The boys agree, and Hayato starts mimicking Onigawara's behavior, with Hikari commenting that he sounds just like him. Hayato gets a bit smug at the compliment and continues his impression, but the girls soon grow bored. Eri shifts the conversation, reminiscing about their explorer training and recalling how Onigawara scolded her during Eid training. By the way, what do you think about these strict instructors in anime? Do you think they help characters grow, or are they just too harsh? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Miku then asks if both Shinji and Hayato are also explorers. They admit they are, but only technically, as they did complete the training. Hayato mentions how the lectures were long, and that Shinji often dozed off. But Shinji points out that Hayato wasn't much better. Hayato explains that because of this, they didn't realize that items from the dungeon are only effective within a 3-kilometer radius. He shares a story about trying to use potions after getting hurt in a race, only to waste them. Eri adds that this is why a theme park has been set up within that 3 km radius, and that all manufacturing and research of dungeon items take place there. She notes that there are many rules, making them hard to remember, and the boys agree. Shinji and Hayato mention that at least the amusement park is fun, and Eri adds that even the park's management by the dungeon staff is impressive, revealing that she once wrote a report about it. The boys then remark on how great dungeons are, a comment Haruka overhears since she's standing right behind them. She and Kaido then return with the drinks and distribute them to everyone, with Haruka wondering why people even explore dungeons. They resume their tour, checking out the swimming pool. Kaido tells Haruka that the pool is heated, so they can swim even in winter. The pool reminds Kaido of the time Haruka saved him from drowning when they were children. Hearing this, Mika realizes that Kaido really can't swim, and Hikari feels a strange, unfamiliar feeling seeing him so close to Haruka. Mika doesn't understand, and Hikari explains it's a feeling she's never experienced before. Next, they visit the soccer field, where Hikari stumbles on the stairs, but Kaido catches her just in time. Embarrassed, she thanks him, and Eri compliments Kaido on his quick save. Mika reminds him to put Hikari down, which he does. A soccer player then accidentally kicks a ball toward Mika's face, but Kaido swiftly acts and saves her, causing both girls' hearts to flutter. Kaido's friends are also impressed, and Eri suggests they head to the dojo next. At the dojo, Eri wonders why she even invited them here, realizing she wanted to impress Kaido. She then demonstrates her skill with a spear, and when she finishes, everyone claps and compliments her, though Eri only focuses on Kaido's praise, understanding why she brought them there. Afterward, Kaido and his friends prepare to leave the academy, and Eri and the girls exchange contact information with Haruka. Eri tells Haruka that she can ask her any questions about the academy. Shinji and Hayato then ask if they can also get the girls' contact info, and they happily agree, which makes the boys thrilled. Kaido and his friends thank Eri for showing them around, and they leave. The scene cuts to them on the train ride home, with Kaido feeling satisfied with the visit. He thinks the academy is great, but his friends are more focused on the girls they met. Hayato asks Shinji which girl he liked best, but they both struggle to choose just one. They joke about starting dungeon exploration again in hopes of meeting more girls like them. Kaido reminds them they're not supposed to talk about this, and Haruka smiles at them, though there's a hint of animosity behind her smile. Later, as Kaido and Haruka walk home together, Kaido tells her he's going to study hard so they can attend Yuka Academy together. Haruka wishes him the best, and then asks which of the 3 girls was his type. Kaido says he never thought about it, though in his mind, he thinks Haruka is his type, but can't say it out loud. Haruka then comments that Kaido called everyone by their first names today, but he doesn't catch her point, which angers her, and she quickly heads home. Later, Kaido wonders why she was so upset and thinks she might have been jealous of the other girls. He quickly dismisses the idea and starts worrying about how he'll explain his absence to Sylphie and Luceria tomorrow. The next day, our unlikely hero is back to his routine, risking his life to exterminate dungeon slimes using insecticide. After collecting a good number of cores, Kaido hears Luz complaining about being left uninvoked while he spent time with humans. Kaido explains that he visited a school with them, and Luz threatens to accuse him of lying, even though she doesn't know what a school is. The first child explains that it's a place where humans study, but Luz still feels hurt by being abandoned. even though she understands Kaido has a life outside. To cheer her up, Kaido promises to set aside 3 cores for each of them, but then notices a strange glow in the back of the cave, revealing a rare slime. He tries to draw the girls' attention to the monster, but they're only interested in the cores, demanding 200 at once instead of just 3. As Kaido continues to point out the approaching creature, Luz loses her patience and mercilessly destroys the slime. Immediately, they turn to Kaido, demanding a reward, so he offers 10 cores each. Finally, they reach an agreement, and the girls calm down with their bellies full. When the dust settles from the destroyed slime, an item drops, and Kaido identifies it as the Gloves of Reason, which grants invisible power at the cost of mana. Curious, Kaido asks the girls for help understanding what the item does. Despite their efforts, they struggle to discern the item's abilities since its power is invisible by nature. Kaido then decides to test the glove on water, hoping to see a visible effect, and it works. Seeing this, he imagines the ability might work on humans, but doubts it would be useful against monsters. Luz is skeptical, but Kaido insists, thinking that combining the glove with another ability might yield something interesting. With this in mind, Kaido strikes with his sword while wearing the glove, and the slash cuts through the air, splitting part of the water below. Additionally, a small block of ice forms during the attack, leaving Kaido proud of his developing techniques. Just then, the 3 girls in his group arrive in the dungeon, causing Luz and Shile to scowl in jealousy. Eri invites Kaido to explore the more challenging levels of the dungeon, but he declines, explaining that he needs to study. Eri insists on having a study session later, offering to teach him many things, to which Kaido agrees but suggests Katsuragi join them. This makes Luz and Shile even more jealous, realizing the girls are getting closer to Kaido. Seeing their scowls, Kaido tries to lift their spirits with more cores, which works. The humans watch the little ones eat with indignant expressions, but can't resist their cuteness. The group then sets off for the 9th floor for the first time, knowing they need to be cautious. The Valkyrie warns them of a powerful enemy ahead. Kaido checks his map and sees no way to avoid it, while Luz assures them she'll defeat the monster if necessary. However, the experienced Eri reminds them that they can always retreat if needed. They soon encounter a terrifying Orthros, a monster that shouldn't be on this floor. Kaido suggests retreating, and Eri agrees, but the monster spots them and attacks. Luceria warns everyone about its fire breath, and Kaido instructs Shile to use the Maiden's Wall to protect the group. As they prepare their strategy, Eri and Miku draw their magical core firearms, and Hikari conjures Earth Wave to immobilize the enemy. The sticky ground slows the Orthros, and Kaido orders Luz to attack with flames of destruction. However, the damage is minimal, and the Orthros retaliates with fire breath. Although Shile's shield absorbs most of the attack, the heat is still felt inside the barrier. Luceria doesn't give up and uses her corrosive breath, briefly trapping the Orthros, giving Miku just enough time to command Snatch's advance. Despite their efforts, the attacks are ineffective. To turn the tide, Kaido decides to use himself as bait, instructing Luz to attack the Orthros' belly when it's distracted. She positions herself beneath the beast, obeying her master's commands, and this time, the attack inflicts more damage. However, it's still not enough. Kaido realizes they need more firepower and calls on Shile to join the offensive with her Divine Lance Rajanate, while Luz continues her attack. Combining their spells, they manage to inflict significant damage, but Kaido is heavily struck by the beast's wrath as it slams the ground, nearly crushing him. Eri and Mickey respond with their firearms, while Kaido quickly thinks of throwing a water ball into the Orthro's mouth. Although this move doesn't have a decisive impact, the combined efforts of the entire group attacking intensely manage to subdue the Orthros, leaving it barely able to fight back. After a relentless sequence of attacks, Kaido finishes the battle with his new long-range slashing technique. The group is thrilled by their victory and eager to continue exploring. But the girls, exhausted from the challenges, need to rest before proceeding. Luce questions why an Orthros was on that level, while the Valkyrie senses the presence of someone even more powerful. Suddenly, from the depths of the cave, a human voice emerges, stating that the monster was just a dog easily defeated. As the voice continues, a creature steps out from the shadows, revealing ears, horns, wings, and a skin tone that makes Luceria certain it's a demon. The group wonders what such a creature is doing so close to the surface and suspects that the demon might have been controlling the Orthros. Before they can act, the demon warns that no one will escape, using Dark Nightmare to seal their fate. Shale protects her allies with the Maiden's Wall, prompting the demon to admit it's a strong barrier, but doubts it can withstand his next attack, a charge so fast that it's nearly invisible. Kaido quickly feeds the Valkyrie with cores to maintain the magical shield, while the rest of the group attacks from within. However, even after using all their firepower, the demon remains unharmed. Kaido analyzes the demon's stats and learns his name is Belia, and that his HP is barely affected. Luz suggests Shile should join the attack, but Kaido worries about losing the protection of the Maiden's Wall. Eri reassures them, saying they'll be fine even against the demon's swift attacks. So Kaido agrees and orders Shile to lower the shield and attack. The team goes on the offensive again, now with a Valkyrie in the mix. But the demon remains unscathed and his attacks remain as fast as ever. In a surprise move, the demon nearly finishes off Kaido with his sword, but Eri saves him just in time with her Naginata. The demon retaliates, pushing Eri back with a powerful blow, while Kaido counters with an explosion ability that destroys the demon's sword, a weapon gifted by a duke. This causes significant damage to the demon, who, now enraged, unleashes a series of punches. Kaido tries to block with an ice shield, but it shatters, leaving him severely injured. Shile and Luz, enraged at seeing their master hurt, attack with even greater ferocity. Kaido, injured but determined, takes a potion and calls Miku to distract the demon. As she and Snatch resume their attack, Kaido uses the opportunity to stab Belia from behind with a magic sword Baltzard and triggers another explosion, dealing considerable damage. In response, the demon uses dark healing to regenerate and attacks with even more fury. With a single punch, he nearly finishes Kaido off. The group tries desperately to stop Belia, but nothing works. In a last-ditch effort, Kaido remembers Luceria's ability, Gluttony's Beauty, which boosts her stats by consuming the target's HP. He asks her to risk using him as the target, even though it might kill him. With no other choice, they fight, and Luceria assumes her highest form. The demon uses Dark Nightmare again, but Luceria, being of the Viscount class, is unaffected and eliminates Belia with a god-slaying dust storm. Afterward, even as Kaido is on the brink of death, Luceria asks him to swear he'll treat her as well as he treats Shia. The boy promises, nearly passing out. During their rest, Kaido discovers he gained 8 GP points and a new skill, Pain Resistance, after enduring Gluttony's Beauty. Luz promises to take it easier next time, causing Kaido to despair. The 3 human members of the team also leveled up, and they all celebrate their victory together. Then it's time to check the spoils. Kaido eyes the Orthros magic core, the largest he's ever seen. But the real prize is the demon Belia's servant card. Luceria wants Kaido to sell the card, not wanting to keep such a weak demon around, but Kaido ignores her and summons it. In seconds, a little horned demon appears, swearing eternal loyalty to his master, though his level is now nullified, making him smaller and weaker than before. Kaido considers returning the product, and the little demon nearly cries from the rejection. In the dungeon company's shower, Kaido laments his wasted effort, while Belia tries to convince him to keep him by massaging his boss. When it's time to sell the Orthros magic core, the dungeon employee is stunned that these young adventurers defeated such a powerful monster on the 9th floor, which shouldn't have happened. She plans to send a team to investigate, but offers 24 million yen, almost $200,000, for the core. Overwhelmed by the amount, Kaido impulsively asks to split it into 4. The girls, born into wealth, don't care about the money and want Kaido to keep it all. He insists on dividing it since the monster was defeated by the group, and the employee provides the paperwork for Kaido to declare income tax. Now, after defeating the dungeon monster, the protagonist faces the taxman. Once everything is settled, the group enjoys a fruit dessert and explains to Kaido how to avoid tax evasion and be a model citizen. By the end of the day, everyone is proud of their accomplishments, and Eri comments that Kaido has a knack for attracting special things. Thinking about it for a moment, Kaido quickly concludes, no.
The scene shifts to Mika talking to Hikari over the phone. Hikari eagerly mentions that she's looking forward to the weekend's raid and is excited to see everyone's new skills. Mika, concerned, advises her not to push herself too hard and to take a break if needed. Hikari insists she's fine and doesn't want to waste time resting. Mika then says she'll see her over the weekend and ends the call. As soon as the call ends, Hikari drops her tough girl act and begins coughing. The scene then transitions to Kaito and the others in the dungeon that weekend. Kaido asks Berulia to show his strength. Berulia requests a weapon, surprising Kaido, who thought he already had one. Luceria reminds Kaido that he was the one who broke Berulia's weapon. Kaido searches his bag and hands Berulia a tungsten rod he had bought earlier, suggesting he use it. Berulia hesitates, asking for something more like a sword. Sylphie and Luceria find this rude, but Berulia apologizes. Kaido explains that the rod is all he has at the moment, so Berulia accepts it for now. Berulia then fights the monsters with the tungsten rod, easily defeating them. Watching him, Kaido thinks Berulia is stronger than he realized, while Berulia hopes this proves his worth to Kaido. Luceria comments that Berulia seems slower than before, and he explains that he hasn't fully adjusted to his current level. With teary eyes, he pleads with Kaido to keep him around, expressing his desire to serve Princess Luceria and Princess Sylphie. The flattery works, as usual, and Berulia admits that he might be a liability now but vows to become Kaido's sword in the future. Kaido agrees to keep him, acknowledging that while Berulia may be slower, he's still strong. Kaido looks forward to working with him, and Berulia thanks him. Kaido then suggests testing Berulia's skills and fights some monsters to lower his HP, asking Berulia to use his Dark Cure skill. Berulia complies, and while Kaido feels a bit recovered, he notices his HP has only slightly improved. Berulia explains that Dark Cure is meant to heal injuries and restore HP just enough to prevent death. Disappointed, Kaido had hoped to use Dark Cure in combination with Beauty of Gluttony to extend the spell's duration. Lucaria wonders if they should try it, but Kaido, with little HP left, refuses. Luceria insists that he won't die instantly, wanting to transform into her adult form again, but Kaido falls trying to escape her. Berulia offers to heal Kaido's injury and uses Dark Cure, making the pain disappear. Kaido acknowledges the usefulness of Berulia's skill, thinking it will help save potions. Berulia is pleased with the compliment, and they head to the deeper floors. They encounter a metal golem, and Irie and the others are eager to show off their skills. Hikari uses her Ice Circle skill to freeze the golem, and Eri slices it in half with her Iron Slash skill. Kaido is impressed, but Eri mentions that her skill consumes a lot of NP, so she can't afford to miss. Next, they face 3 Earth Golems, and it's Miku and Snatch's turn. Miku uses her Dance of Illusion to trick the golems, while Snatcha attacks them with his Hedgehog skill, defeating them. Kaido notices their improved teamwork and decides to test Sylphie's new skill. They explore the dungeon further and encounter more monsters. Kaido instructs Sylphie to use her Song of the War Maiden skill, telling Luceria and Berulia to join the battle to see if the skill works on servants. Sylphie sings, summoning an angel who blesses Kaido and his servants with buffs. They feel stronger and can predict the monsters' movements, easily defeating them. Afterward, Luceria tells Kaido that she felt her power increase, though not as much as with Beauty of Gluttony. Kaido is glad it works on servants too. When he asks Berulia about his experience, Berulia admits he didn't feel any difference. Eri speculates that the skill's effect might depend on the level of trust. Berulia is disappointed but cheers up when Irie encourages him to build trust. The others support him as well, and Berulia thanks them. He mentions that, although he was originally a rear guard, he has risen to knighthood and can improve his swordsmanship further. He believes he can do even more with a proper sword. Kaido leaves and returns with a sword, asking if Berulia can do better with it. Berulia recognizes it as a bastard sword and, overwhelmed with emotion, cries because he's so happy to finally have a real weapon. He vows to do his best and tries out the sword against some monsters, slicing through them with ease. The others are amazed by his skill. Berulia then hands over the magic crystals to Kaido, feeling more motivated now that he has a sword. Kaido thanks him for his hard work, and Berulia is glad to hear it. Kaido wonders if he could teach him swordsmanship, and Berulia agrees, eager to start immediately. However, Kaido mentions that he has to leave early today. Sylphie and Luceria ask why, but he hesitates to explain. Eri reveals that they have a study group at her house tomorrow, causing the servant girls to pick. Kaido apologizes and assures them and Berulia that he will return soon. The scene shifts to Kaito, his friends, and Haruka arriving at Eri's house. They're all stunned by how enormous it is. Soon after, Mikyu and Hikari arrive in their cars and everyone heads inside. At first, they only see a dense forest and wonder where the house is. Then they spot the girls getting into a car to head to the house. Kaido asks for a ride too, but they show the men a different path to walk. The guys can't believe they have to walk while the girls get a ride. The scene then shows the girls greeting Eri at her house, and Haruka compliments Eri, calling her house elegant. Eri thanks her and explains that the house has been a dojo for a long time. It's designed to balance the mind, technique, and body. She points out the dojo for skill practice, a waterfall for calming the mind, and a garden for physical training. She adds that the hill is perfect for building basic physical strength, and she uses it every day. The guys finally arrive, exhausted from their walk. Eri suggests starting the study session, and the guys are shocked they won't even get a break. Eri leads them to the dojo, and the guys are surprised, expecting to go to her room instead. She explains that her room isn't big enough for everyone and that she can also swing her spear here if she loses focus. She adds that they can visit the waterfall if they struggle with distracting thoughts. The guys suspect she's the only one who would do such things, but everyone settles in to study. They take their seats and Kaido wants to sit next to Haruka, but that spot is taken. Eri invites him to sit beside her instead. Haruka feels a pang of jealousy seeing them together, and Eri asks Kaido what he wants to learn first. Kaido chooses to work on math problems, and Eri helps him. Haruka grows more jealous as they get closer, and Hikari asks Haruka to teach her instead. She agrees, but Shinji offers to help as well. Hayato tells him to stop bothering Hikari, saying she can ask him instead since he's good at all subjects. Kaido points out that Shinji and Hayato are almost the same, but Hikari insists on learning from Haruka. Kaido reflects that Haruka will do a great job teaching since she's always been caring and kind. His friends, teasing from the background, say he knows Haruka well and that she's also cute. The other girls get jealous, but Kaido assures them that he and Haruka are just childhood friends. After that, the girls struggle to focus on their studies, so Eri suggests they visit the waterfalls. The boys are hesitant, thinking it's too cold in winter, but the girls are eager. Seeing their enthusiasm, Kaito's friends agree to go as well, leaving Kaido with no choice but to join them. The scene cuts to them at the waterfalls. The boys quickly notice how cold the water is, but the girls step into the waterfall first. They clear their minds, then stop and share how much clearer they feel. Kaido checks on Haruka, who assures him she's fine, and he can't help but notice how cute she looks in wet clothes. Next, it's the boys' turn, but they can't stand the cold water for long and quickly give up. The scene then shifts to everyone leaving Eri's house at night. Shinji and Hayato joke that they forgot everything they learned because of the cold waterfall. Despite this, the girls had fun and suggest doing it again sometime. The guys notice that everyone's getting along better than they did in the morning, and Kaido feels happy to see this. The next day, Luceria and Sylphie find out that Kaido spent more time having fun at the waterfall than studying. The girls confirm it and say that thanks to the fun they had, they're in great shape today. Hikari thinks they might reach the 10th floor at this pace, but the servants aren't pleased. They missed out on the fun. Determined, Luceria vows to prove she's more useful than Eri and the others, and they all continue forward. As they move on, Michael warns Hikari not to overexert herself, but Hikari insists she's been having a lot of fun lately. She hopes these days last forever and shares her dream of becoming a hero. Suddenly, Sylphie senses monsters ahead, and they encounter 2 silver orcs and a lizard man. Kaido tells Sylphie to sing the War Maiden song, which gives everyone a boost in strength. Hikari freezes all the monsters with her ice circle, while Barolia attacks the lizardmen, and Eri and Kaido take down the silver orcs. More monsters appear, but Miku and Snatch quickly defeat them with a combined attack. Eri also joins the fight, while Kaido and Barolia handle the rest. After the battle, Kaido is surprised at how easily they defeated the monsters on the 9th floor. Meanwhile, Luceria feels frustrated that she didn't get to do much and expresses her desire to be more useful. Kaido calms her down and feeds magic crystals to all his servants. Hikari hopes they can keep having fun like this. The group then reaches the stairs to the 10th floor, and Kaido wonders if they should go down. Hikari eagerly leads the way, but suddenly she starts feeling unwell and collapses. Everyone panics as they notice blood coming from her mouth. Miku, with tears in her eyes, desperately calls for Hikari to wake up. The story flashes back 2 years, showing a guy challenging Miku to a card battle. Miku tells him to call her queen as that's her player name, and she accepts his challenge. A crowd gathers to watch the shop's champion queen take on Aizawa, who has challenged her many times before. We learn that Aizawa is a former champion who doesn't want to retire with a loss. Miku defeats Aizawa, and he immediately asks for a rematch. She dismisses him, saying he's just wasting his time. Aizawa claims she's only winning because she has all the rare cards, but Miku corrects him. She explains that a deck full of rare cards isn't enough. You need to understand each card's characteristics and play them wisely. Hearing this, Aizawa runs off. Miku reflects that she was always bored back then and had resigned herself to never having fun again. That's when Hikari approached her and challenged her to a match. Back in the present, we see Hikari in the hospital with Miku sitting beside her bed. Eri tries to reassure Miku, telling her the doctor said Hikari will be fine after some rest and suggesting they leave for the day. But Miku wants to stay longer. Eri tells her that Hikari won't wake up today because of the medication, but Miku insists on staying. Kaido suggests that a high-end potion might bring Hikari back to normal, but Miku angrily explains that potions can only heal injuries, not cure diseases. They ask if Miku knows something about Hikari's condition, but before she can answer, Hikari's parents arrive. Miku apologizes to them for letting this happen to their daughter, but they reassure her, saying there's no need to apologize and that they're grateful Miku spends so much time with Hikari. They mention that Hikari has been having more fun since meeting Miku, Kaido, and Eri. Miku recalls how much fun Hikari had up until now, and unable to bear seeing her in this state, she runs away. Eri and Kaido chase after her and find her on the rooftop. Miku remembers accepting Hikari's challenge 2 years ago, leading to a fascinating match. During their game, Miku noticed Hikari's deck was similar to hers, full of rare cards, and wondered how this was possible. She realized Hikari must come from a wealthy family and began to like her. They continued playing, with Miku explaining that her deck was fine-tuned to suit her aggressive playstyle, while Hikari was more cautious. Miku played her final card and defeated Hikari, advising her to build a deck that suited her better. Hikari, a fan of Miku, said she wanted to play with a deck like hers. Honored, Miku offered to help her build a better deck, and Hikari was thrilled. The two became friends, and from that day on, Miku never felt bored, spending all her time with Hikari. They decided to enter a tournament together and, after a series of tough matches, won the trophy. But during the awards ceremony, Hikari suddenly collapsed on stage. Miku was devastated as they rushed Hikari to the ICU. On the way, Hikari tried to tell Miku about her condition but fainted before she could finish. Later, Hikari's parents arrived, deeply worried. Her father explained Hikari's condition to Miku, revealing that Miku had known about it since then. Kaido asked about the condition, but Eri advised not to push for details. Hikari's father finally explained that her condition causes total organ failure over time, with no cure in sight. Even modern medicine struggles to treat it, and if she collapses again, she might not live to see the new year. Hikari's friends were heartbroken to hear this. Kaido wondered if Hikari knew about her condition and learned that she did. Her father had to tell her because she has sharp instincts. Despite her illness, Eri noted that Hikari always seemed full of energy when they met. Miku explained that it was due to her medication, which suppressed the symptoms, and the fact that their stats were boosted in the dungeon. Hikari's father was surprised to learn that she had been going to the dungeon, as she had told her parents she was just hanging out in the park with friends on weekends. Miku apologized for not telling him sooner, but he said it was fine, believing it was what Hikari wanted. Kaido wondered why Hikari wanted to go to the dungeon, despite being sick. Miku explained that after discovering Hikari's condition, she researched and found out about a miraculous medicine called an elixir, which could cure any illness and was sold for hundreds of millions of yen on the black market. Hikari then approached Miku, having sneaked out of the hospital, and asked if she planned to go to the dungeon to find the elixir. Miku refused. Hikari told Miku that she couldn't hide anything from her, and Miku realized Hikari was planning to go with her. Miku said Hikari couldn't hide things from her either, and reminded her that the dungeon was dangerous. Miku refused to take Hikari to such a place, but Hikari didn't want Miku to go alone. To avoid drawing attention, they decided to take their argument outside. Once outside, Hikari mentioned that finding the elixir could help advance research, potentially benefiting anyone with an incurable disease. Miku was surprised, and Hikari admitted she wanted the elixir for herself but believed others would benefit too. Miku, moved by Hikari's determination, agreed to explore the dungeon with her. Hikari hugged Miku, saying that going to the dungeon was the only thing she could do right now. They promised to find the elixir together and planned to attend an explorer's lecture first. Hikari then mentioned that finding the elixir might make her a hero for those suffering from illness, and Miku encouraged her, saying she could definitely do it. When the others found out the story, Miku explained that even though Hikari was sick, she was more worried about others. Miku said this was why she couldn't leave Hikari behind. She apologized to Hikari's father for not telling him sooner, but he reassured her, saying he was happy Hikari had a friend like her. He thanked Miku for exploring the dungeon with Hikari, and Miku said she was just doing what she could. Kaido thought the phrase sounded familiar, and Miku mentioned that just as Hikari wanted to be a hero for the sick, she wanted to be Hikari's personal hero. She apologized to Kaido and Eri for not telling them about Hikari's illness. They said it was fine, and that they would have done the same in her situation. They offered to help find the elixir, but Miku admitted she wasn't sure it really existed. Eri said she would believe in it because Hikari did, and Kaido agreed. He mentioned that he had thought the elixir was just a legend, but now wanted to see it with his own eyes. Eri suggested they head deeper into the labyrinth, confident that the monster dropping the elixir was on a lower floor. The next day, the three of them explored the 10th floor, encountering some camels. Sylphie used her song to boost everyone's stats, and Kaido instructed Miku to handle the monsters on the right and Eri to take the left. He decided to take on the center himself, but Berulia offered to take his place. Kaido agreed, and Lysiria asked what she should do. He told her to be on standby. They spread out, and Eri easily defeated the monsters with her skills. Miku used her illusions to confuse the monsters while Snatch took them out, and Berulia finished them off with his swords. They noticed none of the monsters dropped an elixir, and Kaido thought it was normal not to find such a miracle easily. They decided to keep fighting, and Lysiria was still surprised to learn Hikari had an incurable disease. Sylphie expressed a desire to find the elixir soon, and Kaido commented on how hot it was. Miku found it strange since there was no sun, but Eri reminded him that the dungeon was a strange place. Kaido asked Sylphie and Lysiria if they were hot, and they said they were used to extreme temperatures. Aurelia wondered if Kaido wasn't going to ask her, but before he could respond, Berulia sensed a monster. He warned Kaido, and the monster emerged from the sand, capturing him. Lysiria tried to use her Hellfire of Destruction, but Sylphie pointed out it would obliterate Kaido too. Miku then used her illusion spell to free Kaido, and before Lysiria could act, Berulia finished off the monster. Lysiria was upset that Berulia stole her thunder, but Kaido calmed her down, promising she could fight the next monster. They later visited Hikari, who joked about wanting to see Kaido constricted by the monster. Kaido thought that was something no one should see, and Hikari also expressed interest in seeing Lysiria's angry face. Miku and Eri told her it was cute, and Hikari hoped to get out of the hospital soon to join them in the dungeon. Miku agreed but later cried, wondering how Hikari could smile when she knew her condition better than anyone. Kaido comforted her, saying her ride was here. Eri accompanied Miku home, reminding Kaido of the hero she wanted to be. She said Hikari was the one she should be protecting now, and Kaido thought he had heard that somewhere before. Later, Haruka called Kaido, asking if he had visited Hikari. He said he had but felt he couldn't tell her the truth about Hikari's illness. He then remembered when Haruka called her father a liar for going to the dungeon despite promising not to. Her father explained that someone had to explore the dungeon to discover its secrets, and he wanted to be that person for everyone's sake. Kaido told Haruka he would call her back later and realized there was still time before the dungeon closed. He returned to the dungeon, where Berulia sensed an enemy underground. Kaido thought it was the same monster from before, but realized it was different when it surfaced. Kaido then thought that, like Captain Katsuragi, he should do what he could right now, hoping to become a hero someday. Thanks for watching my recap. The scene then shifts to Kaido on the 10th floor, determined to follow in the footsteps of Captain Katsuragi and others, hoping that one day he could become a hero as well. However, his daily routine didn't feel heroic. He would return home exhausted after another long, tiring day. The first thing Kaido did upon arriving home was take a bath to unwind. Outside the bathroom, his mom scolded him for constantly coming home late, except when he was tied up with work. She didn't want him to overexert himself, reminding him that he needed to study too. While soaking in the bath, barely staying awake from fatigue, Kaido promised not to push himself too hard. The next day, Haruka glanced over at Kaido's desk in class, but he wasn't there. Suddenly, Kaido burst into the classroom in the middle of the lesson, apologizing to the teacher for oversleeping. The teacher pointed out that he had been late far too often recently, and Kaido vowed to turn things around. Later, between classes, a few girls were excitedly talking about the latest Dungeon Love spin-off, while Shinji and Hayato lamented that Haruka wouldn't be able to visit Hikarin. Kaido, as usual, was passed out in the classroom after school, completely drained, but insisted to his friends that he was fine. On their way home, his friends thought Kaido was going to visit Hikarin, but he made a detour to the dungeon to search for the elixir. As he left, Shinji asked Hayato if they should help, but Hayato reminded him that at their current level, they were weaker than NPCs and would only get in the way. They decided to head to Dungeon Hospital instead, spending the afternoon playing cards with Hikarin. She easily beat them, being so skilled at card games, prompting Hayato to challenge her to Legend of Dunjara. Shinji warned him that he stood no chance against her, which made Hikarin laugh, mentioning she learned from Miku. In the end, Hayato declared he'd bring a video game next time, confident he could beat her at Dungeon 3. But Hikarin revealed her rank as an A1, leaving Hayato realizing he was in for another defeat. During the conversation, Hikarin coughed but reassured them she was fine. The boys said their goodbyes, promising to visit again soon. Hikarin asked them to thank Haruka Katsuragi for the food basket she had sent. Despite always messaging Hikarin, Haruka hadn't visited the hospital yet, and Hikarin admitted it made her sad. Hayato explained that Haruka wasn't a fan of the dungeon park where the hospital was, while Shinji added that she was extremely shy and disliked crowds. Hikarin then asked if Haruka was related to Captain Katsuragi, and Hayato accidentally revealed that she was. Hikarin, who had been reading extensively during her recovery, had come across a mention of Captain Katsuragi in the history of dungeons. She had noticed the captain shared Haruka's surname and eye color. Having figured it out, Hikarin was not surprised when Hayato confirmed that Captain Katsuragi was indeed Haruka's father. She had read that he was celebrated as a hero for being the first captain of the Special Dungeon Exploration Squad, but had mysteriously disappeared after reaching the 41st floor. Understanding Haruka's reluctance to visit the park, Hikarin realized her friend might be worried about her own dungeon explorations. She wondered if Haruka was upset with her, but the boys quickly dismissed that idea. Still, Hikarin entertained the thought that Haruka's father might still be alive since he had only vanished. Determined, Hikarin vowed to reach the 41st floor when she recovered, or even go deeper, hoping that would encourage Haruka to visit the park again. Meanwhile, Kaido and the girls were making progress in the dungeon, descending deeper and battling increasingly powerful monsters, including a sphinx. As usual, Shao sang to empower the group, while Belia sliced through the monster's fiery attacks with her sword. Kaido then called on Luz to begin the counterattack, unleashing her flames of destruction. Though it hurt the Sphinx, it wasn't enough to defeat it, and the beast charged at Shao in retaliation. The Valkyrie cast Dance of Visions, teleporting Eri and Mikyu behind the Sphinx. Eri struck with her Zantetsueki technique, while Mikyu and Snatch attacked from a distance. Seizing the opportunity, Kaido dashed under the Sphinx and used his bout sword's disintegrate ability, finishing the battle by defeating the creature. With this victory, the entire team leveled up, as the Sphinx was no ordinary opponent. Shao and Belia congratulated the humans for leveling up, though Luz fumed because only the humans seemed to advance, while the servants remained at the same level. Unbothered, the Valkyrie informed Kaido about the item dropped by the Sphinx, but he brushed it off as just another magic core. Eri and Mikyu noted that finding the elixir would be challenging, and Kaido urged the group to press on. They were determined to reach the portal by the end of the day, but not before giving the smaller companions some magic cores to eat, as they had begun complaining about hunger. Without hesitation, Kaido handed out food to Luz, Shile, and soon Belia and Mikyu, who appeared with hungry looks, leaving Kaido puzzled about whether they wanted food too. Later, the group returned to the dungeon staff, who informed them that the items they had collected that day were worth 590 zenzen yen. As the staff member began calculating the split between the 3 members, Kaido quickly reminded her that there were actually 4 members, as Hikarin was still part of the team and deserved her share. As they left the dungeon that night, Kaido asked if Eri and Mikyu could really stay in the dungeon on weekdays, given they had mentioned they could only join during weekends. Eri explained that as long as she didn't have any university seminars or workshops, it wasn't an issue for her to join. In fact, she wished she could come every day. Miku, too, could explore the dungeon whenever she had free time. With that, Miku asked Kaido how he was feeling, noting that he had been looking a bit pale lately. Kaido reassured them that he was fine and quickly dashed off to the station after saying goodbye. Once at home, Kaido watched Dungeon Love, where the protagonist remarked that finding rare items wouldn't be fun if it were too easy. His sister chimed in, saying that monsters on the deeper floors had a higher chance of dropping rare items. They both concluded that they needed to venture deeper into the dungeon and uncover its mysteries if they wanted to become great explorers. Listening to their conversation, Kaido realized he'd have a better chance of finding the elixir if he delved deeper. This prompted him to research the monsters on the 12th floor. When morning came, Kaido returned to school, completely wiped out as expected. His teacher, furious, did everything she could to wake him during class. After school, Kaido ran straight for the dungeon, but his friends intercepted him, urging him to take a break, pointing out that he was pushing himself too hard. They invited him to do something relaxing like bowling, but Kaido wasn't interested in resting and prepared to leave. Haruka tried to stop him one last time, mentioning that everyone knew he was doing this for Hikarin, but she couldn't quite put her feelings into words. Kaido slipped away, running toward his goal. Once in the dungeon, he decided to descend to the 12th floor, even without Eri and Miku. However, he lost his balance and fell. Shile noted that her master seemed exhausted, but Kaido denied it. Luz agreed, saying the Valkyrie was right since the fatigue was written all over his face. Belia, always polite, apologized if he was overstepping but suggested Kaido take the day off. Despite their concerns, Kaido chose to push on but promised to retreat if things got dangerous. They descended to the 12th floor, an icy expanse. Due to the intense cold, Kaido thought they might need extra gear to endure the temperature, but decided to explore a bit first. After some walking, they encountered no monsters, and even Shile couldn't sense any threats. Just as they decided to head back, the Valkyrie detected a strange presence rapidly expanding like an explosion. Suddenly, a swarm of bats flew past, fleeing from a dark tunnel. Then, the ground began to shake as the sound of louder, heavier footsteps approached. A herd of giant wild boars came charging toward them, causing a stampede. Shile activated her magic shield, and Kaido scooped her up as they tried to escape while protected. But they quickly realized they couldn't outrun the stampede. With no other options, Kaido asked Sylphie to sing the Valkyrie's song, grumbling that he had pushed his limits despite the warnings. Luceria unleashed her flames of destruction, taking down some of the boars, but there were too many, and the rest continued charging. With no choice, the team fought the wild beasts, managing to defeat many of them. Mid-battle, the girls leveled up, but the fight wasn't over yet. As another boar charged, Kaido tried to strike but slipped on the ice and was hit hard by the creature. More boars closed in, and Kaido couldn't avoid being severely injured by the stampede. With Kaido's HP rapidly dropping, Belia desperately tried to save him. The girls urged Belia to grab Kaido and retreat since they had leveled up. They had also learned a new skill and began absorbing the magical cores scattered on the ground for energy. The Valkyrie and the demon combined their magic, casting a spell while Shile attacked with the goddess's judgment. Luceria then unleashed the Wrath of Purgatory. Far off, Belia managed to shield Kaido from the massive explosion caused by the power surge, but he noticed Kaido wasn't in good shape and might not even survive. Without wasting time, the young demon used dark healing on him. Shile and Luceria returned after their victory, but Belia was running out of mana. Luz slapped Kaido's face to stop him from slipping away. Sylphie tried to give him an HP potion, but it spilled from his mouth. Determined, she transferred it to him mouth to mouth to ensure he swallowed it. Seeing Kaido improve, whether from the potion or something else, Luceria eagerly opened another vial and did the same, followed quickly by Shile. Innocently, Belia prepared his own potion to join in, but the girls made it clear he wasn't invited. After all the effort, Kaido managed to stand, only to pass out again from exhaustion. He was taken to the dungeon's healer, but his injuries weren't too serious, and the only recommendation was rest. Eri and Miku visited him at the medical center, and Kaido admitted he was terrified during the stampede. After being discharged, Eri offered to drive him home, but Kaido declined and dashed off to the station, slipping away from the girls. Internally, he apologized to Hikarin. Thanks for watching.